So I have so many questions. There's a lot, and we appreciate you. But I want to start with when you made the decision to come over to America, right? Like you were in the W Series. I mean, complete dominance, right? We kind of see what's going on over there, and it's like, hey, this would be really cool to see. Like I hope you either got the chance either in like F2 or F3, whatever it is, like at a very high level against everyone. And sure enough, here you are in Indy NXT. I think we're very lucky to have you on this side of the planet. And the 2-year program as well in Indy NXT, very smart. I think people don't realize how difficult it is to learn a new championship. First off, like that's what, like my dad, when he was telling me when I was going through, it's like, hey, we got to do 2 years of things because I think you take 1 year to learn, next year to win the championship or pursue that. So what was the swap over like? Was it, completely different lifestyle, completely different shift in competition and vehicles and everything?
It's exactly that. I mean, I think coming from W Series, whilst that championship was amazing and gave me the platform it has to come over here in the first place, relatively where it was is kind of F4 level. So yeah, perhaps the perception was that, I'd jump out of W Series. I even had a few talks about going straight to INDYCAR or even, F2 and stuff. And that was way off, where realistically, I needed to be. So yeah, I was super fortunate, got the opportunity and the call up to go and test in Indy Next. And I drove the car. I loved it. I thought, okay, I'd love to do this. But I knew it was going to still be a challenge. As you say, all the tracks are new. The whole skill set entirely is almost different because they're bigger, more powerful, higher performance cars. So coming into it last year, testing went okay, but yeah, you get to the first race and it was a tough transition. But it was always looking at a 2-year program. So kind of keep my head down, just trying to learn as much as I could. And then the main thing I struggled with, to be honest, was strength. So these cars, no power steering, as you know, quite long races, physical tracks. And yeah, just found that, wasn't obviously strong enough in the season. We made quite a few changes to the car. And really it took me sort of an off season to get properly strong. And yeah, to come into it this year, second year, like you say, you aim obviously a lot higher. You kind of put on your sort of targets. Like, I want to get podium, try and win races. I would be lying if I genuinely believed I was capable of doing that this year. I really wanted to. I think the pace that we had was capable of being up there. But yeah, I would have taken your arm if you said that, I'll be winning, well, especially at Road America, but winning races at this point.
I mean, it's great, though. What you talk about physically, I think Michael Andretti, when he was interviewed, I was watching the race, and he said you took the entire offseason to really focus on the physical side of being prepared. Because I think people realize, like, oh, yeah, drivers are athletes, it's hard, yeah. But, like, when you get behind the car, for example, right, you know that you might have the ability, and on, let's say, 2 or 3 laps, you have the speed. But it's very difficult if you fall behind the car. Like, I've struggled for sure in the IndyCar at times, and you got to be ready for it. And when you show up and do what you did at Road America, I think that then is the immediate, just like, that's the shining light of like, hey, the entire race, you were ahead of the whole field, ahead of the car, ahead of everything. Does it feel like you're now at that level, at the right level that you want to be at?
Exactly that. And it took me, it was actually Barber this year, because even last year when I thought I was on top of it, I was still actually struggling. I would, like you say, get those couple of laps and be fine, but then you start declining in the race, or you don't realize that you are actually struggling more. So we've made the steering super light in our car. We've taken a lot of the caster out, a lot of things to make it easier for me as well. But as Michael said, I've been training really hard in the off season, and then now kind of what I expect or what I want to be from a comfort level in the car is very different. So yeah, Barber is really nice because that's one of the most physical tracks we go to. And I went there and I was like, okay, this is actually, I don't want to say easy, but this is super manageable. Like, I'm now only at like 70% of like my max work. So yeah, it is giving me more capacity to focus on other stuff, which I think has helped.
Absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about your engineer. I know your engineer, Andy, very well. He was my engineer at the Indy 500 when I drove for Andretti. And I think Andy is one of the smartest people that I have ever known in this sport. I think he could be winning IndyCar championships. I think he is one of the most talented people that I've certainly ever worked with. But also, I think he's a great person to work with as a rookie or as someone who is kind of new to the game, right, or new to this area of motorsport, I think the way he communicates things is very good. Do you agree the same thing? Do you think that Andy has been a huge help for you in your quest so far in the North American side of the world?
An unbelievable help, and that's like this is the kind of point that I kind of don't want to labor, but I want to talk about a lot. But is that drivers can get better, drivers can develop, but you actually are quite reliant on having the right people around you to do that. And Andretti have helped me a lot with that. They gave me Andy, who, as you said, is an IndyCar engineer, or was an IndyCar engineer, came down to Indy NXT last year to work with me. And he was super patient with me. I wasn't getting results. We were on the back row at the first race last year. We weren't getting the results, particularly at the beginning of last year, but he stuck with it, and he was keen to continue what we had started last year into this year. So he's been a huge, huge help. Like you say, super, super smart. The way he communicates everything has made my life a lot easier. And alongside him, Bob Perona is another one.
Bob, great guy.
A driver coach. Great guy. And that's another side of it. It's like, actually in Europe, we don't really have driver coaches that much. I don't even really know why. Like, I did not understand the value of how important it was until I started working with Bob. And yeah, that's another side of it. We had hours on calls and stuff where, yeah, he just explains things so well and has made a huge difference in helping me develop. So those two particularly, but honestly, the whole Andretti squad have helped a lot.
So let's talk about the achievement, right? Like being the first woman in many, many years to win an Indy Lights, Indy NXT, obviously back in the day. But in my era, like I'm now old, which is weird, like kind of old, but like I've
definitely not old.
I feel like I've been around a long time to where I've seen, like I was there when Pippa won the race, right? Like I've seen, like I saw Anna Beatrice, be successful in the Indy Lights series. Like I raced against both of them at the Indy 500, right? Like I've raced against Catherine, who I think is very good as well in the IndyCar series. And but when I think about it, like that type of dominance at a road course, right, is something that I certainly don't remember seeing in a long time. And like that is really cool. Like there was something about watching you win that race. I was watching with a lot of folks in the paddock, and I love emotional sports stories. Like the thing about sport, which is so cool, is like seeing something different happen or seeing something that I think everyone just is excited about. And that win felt like that was like, oh, that was cool. Like it just put a smile on everyone's face, I think. And the way you did it too, like the red flag, we're all sitting there looking at that red flag like, oh my gosh, this sucks. Like this is one of those opportunities. You're like, everything's going right. Yeah. But do you feel that like seeing your smile in victory lane, like, does it feel like this is maybe one of the greatest feelings that you've had in your young career so far?
It's for sure my biggest achievement. Like I would say, say that in a day and say that. It's really nice seeing, the reaction that it's had in a way, because from a personal point of view, that's really nice. And it makes me feel like all along everyone's wanted me to do well. And it's just taken me to do well to kind of validate that in my head. But the impression I get and the feeling I get, especially over here in America, is that, everyone wants to see people do well. No one wants to see anyone fail. Yeah. And so that's a really nice feeling. But then from a personal point of view, I wouldn't say I didn't believe I could achieve this at this point, but you never know. I think every sports person, every driver, every athlete, they have doubts in their mind as to, okay, can I really achieve this? Am I capable of this? Am I not? But kind of, it does come back to that point of like how hard we've worked and the group of people around me that have helped me get to this point. When I think about all the things we've spoken about and how much I've learned, then I'm like, okay, of course we can achieve this. And yeah, I felt very comfortable in that race, to be honest, regardless of what was thrown at me. Fortunately, it's one thing W Series did prepare me well for, is leading and winning races. And I felt a lot more comfortable in that position than actually I have done when you're in the thick of it and you've got 12 teenagers trying to lunge you into every corner and you're battling through it. So in that sense, I was super happy.
And honestly, right now, the push for women in motorsport is massive. I think you've seen a lot of great support. With your win, you see Rolex, right? Rolex is putting out a big post about you. You got Williams Racing, obviously the Formula One team, great support there. Love everyone at Williams. That's a great group of people. But I think just the feeling of it, and there's so many, young girls that probably have the same dream as you right now, and they're like seeing you win. that's such a huge thing. I think that like you beat everyone, which is the goal, right? That's why we get into this sport. We want to win. Do you see this being a great step for, women in motorsport? Being like, hey, you know what? You're the leader. Like, you're the leading the charge for the young ladies out there who want to be professional racing drivers.
Yeah, I really hope so, for sure. But then, I'm following in some other great women's footsteps as well. It is still just a matter of time, in my opinion. But I think there's two sides of it. One is like, okay, we want to be racing against the boys, beating the boys. Like, it is physical, it is tough, but I think we're capable of it, and that's like the goal beyond it. But then at the same time, I wouldn't be sat here without something like W Series giving me that opportunity or platform in the first place. So I think there's so many great initiatives now happening, particularly, in Europe and things, that I think we're getting so close to it now. And it's the stats of like 15 years or whatever it's been since Pippa won. Yeah, I don't like that, because that's like, why haven't there been any women or girls that have been, at least I don't think there's been any even in the championship. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of time. But it is cool. And yeah, I'm just enjoying the ride at the moment.